Subscribe to Teckoh on YouTube or you will forever be a bot at Fortnite.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So, as you probably know, good game sense is a really important trait to have in Fortnite. Pretty much all of us know this by now, and know that if you're going to make it in Fortnite competitive, or even in just arena, you need to have decent game sense. So, today I compiled a bunch of tips that I learned from watching and talking to some of the smartest pros in the game, and I'll be going over all of them in this video. Before I start though, I'd like to ask that if you go on to enjoy this video, that you drop a like on it, and also consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content just like this. But with that said, let's get straight into the video. Alright guys, so the first tip of this video, and probably one of the most important tips you'll hear, especially for competitive players, is to have a consistent strategy that you follow every single game. When I was watching pros to research for this video, I noticed that pretty much every single time they play a scrim or a tournament match, they tend to follow the exact same loot route, make the exact same rotations, and they ultimately have a plan for pretty much everything that may come in their way. Obviously, this is, for one, from experience, because they've landed at the same spot for so long, but also because they've taken the time to plan out everything and prepare for pretty much any situation that may arise. I'll use my old loot route as an example of this. First, I always landed at the yellow house in Holly Hedges. Every game, I'd land on this side of the roof, pickaxe in and grab the chest, then pickaxe down and grab the floor loot and the rest of the house. Then, once I finished looting this house, I'd go out to the side, to this tree, farm the tree, and grab the chest. Finally, I'd head to this blue house. If there's a player here, I'd fight them and usually get the kill, and if not, I'd simply grab the chest that's in this little tent, and head up through the house, grabbing all the loot and pickaxing into the roof, which has the last chest. Then, if the zone was close to me, I'd continue fighting and looting and just hanging out around there, and otherwise, I'd rotate right after that. So guys, eventually, after following this same exact strategy for a while, I got insanely good at it and basically mastered every aspect of this drop. So, what you can take away from this is to find a spot and absolutely perfect it, landing there every single game, practicing every type of fight and situation that may arise, getting a perfect drop, and so on. If you can do this, you'll find that you'll make it out of early game way more consistently and also be able to play smarter due to the fact that you know all of your surroundings extremely well. It's also worth mentioning that this kind of goes hand in hand with the mid game and late game as well, because obviously if you have a plan for every single situation, then there's going to be no situation you don't have a plan for. But yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is have a plan ready for everything. Early game, mid game, end game, just always be ready for whatever may happen. Next up, I'm going to go over one of the least followed yet most helpful tips to improve your game sense, and that's to play more tournaments. No, I'm not talking about arena. No, I'm not talking about the crappy zone rule scrims that you'll find in scrim servers. I'm talking about straight up tournaments. The thing about tournaments is that they're the only form of practice that is available to the general population of players that don't have some sort of roadblock, for example, a zone rule, bad players, or anything like that. Two of the most popular forms of in-game practice include arena and zone rule customs, and I'm going to explain why both of those are worse than tournaments. For arena, obviously most players aren't exactly very good. Now that's okay, and it's still solid practice for W keying, but your game sense really won't get much better as a result of playing arena. On top of this, most players die out relatively quick, so mid-game rotations are way too easy and end games are a total joke. Zone rule customs, like the ones you'll find in Atlantis or East Open, are pretty much the worst forms of practice in my opinion. To start, there's basically zero game sense involved in the entire game. Think about it. There's no fighting allowed in the first few zones after spawn, so early and mid-game rotations and early and mid-game fights are totally off limits, and that's where 90% of your game sense comes into play. The only real benefit of playing these is the endgame practice, since there's a lot of players in the endgame, but ultimately, endgame just comes down to a consistent strategy, having good mechanics, and knowing some basic rotation techniques. So overall, it's terrible for game sense. And all of that basically just leaves tournaments as the only form of practice where you'll run into decently skilled players around your level since it's based on points, have good endgames, at least some of the time, and be able to practice the entire game instead of just parts of it. So basically what I'm trying to say is whenever you see a tournament, especially high quality ones like FNCS, be sure to play in them if you're looking to improve your game sense. So next up, guys, I want to talk about the term that we all hear pretty much every single video from a certain tips and tricks YouTuber, and this is Vadra Viewing. Now, all Vadra Viewing really is looking back at your own gameplay to spot mistakes and issues you need to fix. These issues can be anything from stupid edits to a bad rotation, maybe taking a bad fight, and so on. All Vadra Viewing really requires is 3 things. First is a recording or replay file of a game you played. Second is a pen and paper or something to take notes on. And finally, you have to be in the right mental state for it. A few golden rules for Vadra Viewing include watching both perspectives, so yourself and your opponent, not blaming the game or RNG because that's going to get you nowhere, and just generally being honest with yourself. As you continue Vadra Viewing and keep improving, and also keep watching my videos, your understanding of the game will get way better over time, and you'll be able to spot more and more mistakes, fix them, and continue this process of improvement. So once again, if you're not already doing it, be sure to start Vadra Viewing as soon as possible. Fourth up, we've got the simple act of gaining experience in game. Now, this sort of goes hand in hand with the first tip of having a consistent strategy, because the more time you actually take to play the game and put your strategy into action, the more experience you'll gain and the more you'll improve overall. The thing is, if you play the game enough, you'll subconsciously learn and adapt to more situations as time goes on. Things like Vadra Viewing simply make this process faster. But all things considered, if you simply play the game a ton and focus on playing intelligently, your game sense will naturally improve on its own, and you can use other things like Vadra Viewing and the other tips in this video to make the process go even faster. But if you're looking to improve your game sense specifically, just make sure that whatever you're playing is all game sense intensive. That means less stuff like creative, public matches and all that crap, and more of the stuff that actually requires you to play intelligently. If you play things like this, even if you don't Vadra View or do anything else at all, your game sense will improve on its own, just slower than if you added the other stuff on top of it. Basically, in a hypothetical universe, if you played tournaments and scrims non-stop, all day, every day, your game sense would reach an extremely high level even without outside help. The more you play, the more your game sense will improve on its own, but things like Vadra Viewing help speed up the process. The main reason I wanted to include this tip in the video was because I notice a lot of people blow off the straight up gameplay practice in favor of things like Vadra Views and other methods of improving. Just make sure that you have a healthy balance of everything, and that you also play the game a lot to not only put your strategies and things you learn into practice, but for that subconscious improvement that happens while you play normally. Finally, the last tip I have for this video is to watch pros to improve your own game sense. This is one of the most discussed, most talked about, yet least done tips, and it's for a reason. Obviously, most of us would rather just sit back and play the game for ourselves to improve, rather than watching someone else play the game to improve. But there's a really good reason to watch pros play to actually improve your own gameplay, and that's because you can pick up new strategies and new tactics from watching them that you can't from just playing the game normally. Just think about it. If you're not already a pro, then pro players probably have far better game sense and better game knowledge than you do. So why not watch and analyze them, the top players in the world, to see what you can pick up from their gameplay and implement into your own. Honestly, the reason most of us don't do it is simply because it's time consuming. But honestly, if you're serious about improving at the game, especially when it comes to game sense, sitting down and taking some notes on what the top players do is definitely worth the time. There's simply so much you can learn from spending 20 minutes analyzing a pro, as opposed to watching yourself for 20 minutes. It's essentially an alternative to normal VOD reviews. You can watch your own gameplay to spot mistakes and issues, and then you can watch pro gameplay to find new tricks and new strategies to implement into your gameplay. Apart from doing it on your own, there are some content creators on YouTube who make really good VOD review videos on pros. You can find this on a few channels like Destiny's Jesus, Monster D-Face, sometimes It's Jarian, and also my friend Hindo G, who also makes really good videos. Super underrated, go check him out. Also, I may be starting to do some content like that in the near future, so make sure you're subscribed with notifications so you don't miss out on that. But with that said, everyone, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I really hope you all enjoyed this video. I actually spent a ton of time working on it, so it would mean a lot to me if you could drop a like and possibly subscribe to see more content just like this in the future. Also, if you guys made it this far in the video, then comment something that includes the phrase God GameSense, and I'll be picking a few of you to gift a skin or emote from the item shop for free. Anyway though, I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.